everybody, Coach Coop here. In this video, we will be discussing the opportunities for female athletes. I interviewed 3 female athletes and got their feedback. Each athlete was asked 5 questions to answer concerning their own experiences on opportunities for female athletes. Now let's meet our athletes. Our first athlete is Lisa. She played basketball, tennis, and badminton. She also played Division I college basketball. Our next athlete is Jenna. She played basketball, soccer, softball, and lacrosse. She also played Division II college basketball. Our third athlete is Kayla. She played track and field, basketball, and softball. She also played college Division II basketball. Question 1. Did you feel that your girls' sports programs at your school or in your community received equal attention and resources compared to the boys' programs?
I definitely believe there's a difference in the amount of attention and resources that boys and girls athletics receive. Interestingly, I went to an all girl private high school and it was amazing as an athlete there. I was a multi sport athlete and we were given lots of attention. All the focus was always on us. The pep rally was solely about us, and it was really a confidence builder. And then I went to play basketball at Loyola University and quickly learned that there is a difference in how women's sports and men's sports are viewed in terms of resources financially that were allocated to us. Publicity was so much more for the men's team than the women's team. I remember specifically playing in a doubleheader with the men's team and then the women's team, and most of the crowd got up and left after the men's game and didn't stay for the women's game. And even as a coach of high school girls basketball, I can see how the men's programs receive a lot more money and publicity than the women's teams do.
I feel like the girls' team didn't get as much attention and resources compared to the boys' teams. Just with things like fans that would come out to the game, definitely was a lot less. Even when girls' teams were better than the boys' teams for different sports. I also feel like the boys' team had just more like team gear and they could be like represented more through that. So it was more like known that they were on the team. And then just chatter through like community and like teachers, they just talked mainly just about boys teams and didn't mention a lot about the girls teams, even when it was like winning seasons and stuff like that.
So for the first question, did I feel like the sports programs in my community got equal attention for the girls programs and the guys programs? I would have to say personally not. The guys games definitely had a lot more attendance and a lot more advertisement, it seemed like, and it was just probably due to the fast nature of the guys game compared to a girls game. Girls tend to play at a slower pace, so they generated a lot more hype.
Question 2. Growing up, did you notice any differences in how male and female athletes were treated by coaches, teachers, or the community? How did that affect your experience?
Growing up, I thought that male and female athletes were definitely treated differently. Female athletes were seen as not as skilled or competitive. And the way this affected me was honestly to make me more determined and dedicated to prove myself out in the athletic arena.
Growing up, something I noticed that was different for male and female athletes, how they were being treated by teachers, was they would only make like comments about guys' games with scores that were really good and like call out individual players if they made a really good play during games. And they never really did that for girls' teams or calling out individual girl players and like praising them. And whenever they like mentioned things about sports, they never called up a girl to talk about it. They only like called out guys in class.
Yeah, so growing up, I did notice a lot of differences between the way guy athletes were treated and female athletes were treated. First off, just by fellow students and fellow peers, the guys always seem to get a lot more attention and praise, and the girls seem to be a little more overlooked. And I would say that was probably the same way with a lot of teachers as well. The only time it would be different if girls were winning championships and guys weren't. But since they were both about equal, our school, our guys tended to get a lot more just attention from the overall community.
Question 3. Were there any specific instances where you felt discriminated against or excluded in sports because you were female?
Specific instance where I was discriminated against in sports was when a local coach was looking for an assistant to help him run some basketball camps. He immediately discredited me as an option because I was a girl. And in his viewpoint, girls didn't know much about sports and specifically basketball. Fortunately, I was able to talk with this coach. I was able to express my basketball knowledge and get to know him better. And after that, he gave me a chance and had me back for every camp after that he ran. So again, he was just discredited originally because I was a girl, and his viewpoint was that girls were not that knowledgeable about sports.
The question asking about feeling excluded or discriminated, I would say it was more of underestimated in my knowledge of like sports in general and my knowledge of that specific sport, like knowing the rules and just knowing everything about it. And then also strength. Like they assumed that girls weren't strong and powerful. And this was through like coaches and then just things I overheard were these assumptions being made.
As far as if there was any specific instances I felt discriminated against because I was a female athlete rather than a male athlete, there were several times just in like elementary school, just playing like on the recess field where like guys didn't necessarily include each other in sports, which kind of demonstrated the culture of my school. As far as opportunities, the guys teams also tended to get to go to a lot more tournaments than the female athletes did, which was discouraging at times because it seemed like they got a lot more practice and time to work together as a team.
Question 4. Who were the female role models in sports you looked up to as a little girl? How did they influence your interest in athletics?
Some of the female athletes who were role models to me growing up were Florence Griffith Joyner, Mary Lou Retton, Dorothy Hamill, Martina Navratilova, and Billie Jean King. These women were pioneers in their sports. They revolutionized women's sports, and they were just such an inspiration to me growing up because they walked onto a court or a field and showed that they could compete and be just as competitive as any man, and that women could be strong. And so it was just really an inspiring role models to have.
The question asking about female role models in sports I looked up to would definitely be my sister and my mom. My sister is like an overall athlete. When you picture an athlete, like she comes to mind. It's not also just even about how she plays. Like she just has the mental like knowledge of just sports and just the way she handles herself in all the situations, even like tricky situations where I would like overreact. She just knows what to do. And then my mom, how she played through different levels and then coached teams, and she honestly gave me my interest in sports.
As a female athlete, I didn't necessarily have any more famous athletes I looked up to for a female role model, but I did have some strong female coaches in my life who I really appreciated. I can remember one of my assistant coaches my freshman or sophomore year of high school, and just how she constantly pushed us to be better athletes and to always like train our body and our athleticism. Even in not non-sport specific ways, just by doing like extra workouts and weightlifting and different things like that. And I just appreciated her drive and her mentality.
Question 5. What has changed, good or bad, since you were a youth athlete? And what do you think will change in the coming years?
Positive change since I was a youth athlete is that girls now have many more opportunities to play a variety of sports. There does still need to be more resources allocated to girls' sports. One of the most disturbing changes I've seen is the allowance of biological males to participate in female athletics. And my wish is that players, coaches, schools, and community members stand up for the rights of female athletes and protect women's sports.
Some changes I've noticed is how women's sports have gained in popularity. I feel like before you used to not hear much just conversations about women's sports in in social settings, but now with people who have like big names like Caitlin Clark, who sells out stadiums at games, definitely has increased the popularity of women's sports. And then a negative change would be how transgender individuals are taking away the opportunity for women to be in women's sports and having an unfair advantage in a women's sport.
Since I was a young athlete, I believe that girls' athletics has tended to get a little bit more attention than it did whenever I was a child. And I think that throughout the rest of the years, it's going to continue to grow due to just some key influential players such as Caitlin Clark, who are really paving the way for female athletics and hopefully generating the hype and the attention it needs. And I'm hoping the WNBA keeps and continues to grow, as well as girls' college athletics and different organizations like that, to generate even more attention to female athletes and give the same equal attention as they do to male athletes.
In summary, after conducting these interviews, we learned a lot about the opportunities that these different athletes got throughout their experiences of growing up. Each experience that each of the athletes had is very valuable to shaping who they are today and then their viewpoint on female athletics within the sport. I think there's much that we can learn by looking at everyone's different various experiences and seeing them and comparing them to our own experiences that we have in sports and seeing how we can use this to grow female athletics.